Welcome, everybody, to More Than Just Business. I'm your host, Rick Franzo. This show is powered by the growth coach of the Poconos. Joining me today is top-rated tax, Social Security, disability, and bankruptcy attorney, Patrick Best of ARM Lawyers and Best Tax Solutions. How are you?
I'm doing great, Rick. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for being here. I don't want to neglect to mention that Pat also is the author of two books, The Essential Bankruptcy Survival Guide and The Essential Tax Resolution Survival Guide. And here is the copies. And they're available, I'm sure, when he gives the contact information. They're very good. They're very informative. They're great quick reads and a lot of good information in there. So again, welcome, Patrick. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Rick. Everything is going good on our end. So I appreciate the opportunity to come on and talk to you about everything that's going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to have this conversation with everything that's going on and, COVID. We talk about COVID-19 all the time, but there's so many things that are trickle down and collateral damage that is because of this situation. And one of the things is bankruptcies, taxes, things like that. But before we even delve into those subjects, tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your practice.
Well, I actually practice in 4 states, as you said, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Maryland. So I have a pretty wide geographic practice, but my main office is in Stroudsburg. I live in Stroudsburg as well with my family. It's my wife and my 4 kids. And we do practice in a number of areas within the firm, but my specialties include Social Security, disability, tax, and bankruptcy.
Excellent. And now with COVID having impact on small, medium, even large-sized businesses, that's a conversation that we really are having sooner rather than later for some businesses, and even surprise for some businesses to have this bankruptcy talk. So first off, before we even go into bankruptcy, let's talk about some of the tax planning that you do, what the steps are when you are doing the tax planning, and that's during the best of times. We'll kind of segue into where we are now, but how that usually looks when there's really low impact, like what the tax planning really entails.
Sure. Well, I work with small business owners, sole proprietors, independent contractors, anyone who is, let's call it self-employed. And with those people, I work with them to reduce their tax burden to the IRS. So by looking and diving into their tax returns from prior years, I'm able to figure out a number of deductions or legal loopholes or different ways that they can reduce their taxes, even beyond what their CPA may have done with them in the past, if they were working with the CPA.
So what would be an example that would be something that you could write off if you were a business owner?
Well, there's a number of things that people tend to miss, and they surround a lot of the things that we're doing anyway. So a lot of those different types of write-offs involve your house. A lot of them involve your vehicle, and a lot of them involve your life, things like meals and things like of that nature. So one of the common ones that we see all the time is kind of under usage of the home office. There's a number of ways that we can kind of maximize the returns that you would have on a home office. And even if you were doing something as minimal as using a room in your house to open your mail or to store your things before you may go into your main office. So that's like an example of something that we would review and try to determine if you were maximizing your deductions in that regard.
That's interesting. So with more people working from home and conducting business from maybe a spare bedroom, maybe their kitchen table, who knows, right? What are some of the things that they could look for to deduct? Would it be, gosh, I don't know, I'm just kind of spitballing here, but maybe the electric, maybe your internet connection, I don't know, maybe the phone?
So those are a lot of things that you would think of when you think of the home office deduction. You would think of the utilities, you would think of all of those things that you're paying. But it goes a little bit beyond that because we actually get to deduct a portion of your mortgage interest. We get to deduct a portion of your property taxes. We can deduct repairs to the home. What if you need a new roof? Well, certainly the roof is going to help your office. So we get to deduct a portion of your new roofing cost or new windows, or maybe you need a new air conditioner, things of that nature. All of those things are deductible. We also have, how about lawn care? If you invite clients or employees or things to your house to meet with you, then all of a sudden lawn care becomes, at least in part, deductible as a result of your home office. So there's a number of things that people miss, and you end up overpaying your taxes. I don't think I've ever met with a business owner who wasn't overpaying their taxes, even when they had a CPA advising them.
Wow, that's really interesting. And that could save a lot of people a lot of money, especially now everything is super tight and we're not assuming anything. But as we were talking about prior to the show, everybody took a big slap in the head because of this. I don't really care what industry. So business coaching, being a lawyer, people that are in contracting, people that own small shops and businesses, things like that. So one of the other things you do is tax resolution. So talk a little bit about tax resolution for us, what that even involves.
So we help people who owe the IRS money. So not only do we help you save money before you owe it, we also help you if you owe them. So people who have years of unfiled returns, maybe they just have overdue balances. We work with those people to either negotiate with the IRS to pay maybe less than the full balance, or we work out payment plans. We can do lien releases. We could stop wage garnishments or bank levies. So we really do anything to work with the taxpayer who might be in hot water with the IRS, so to speak.
With this, that's really interesting because there were so many people that were kind of sideswiped by when they were supposed to get this stimulus, and they didn't have their taxes filed for a year or 2 or 5 or whatever, and they were expecting to have the stimulus money, but there were certain criteria that you had to meet for that. And so if they had problems with the IRS, they weren't getting that stimulus money, right?
Yeah, it was actually in the last 2 months, I think that was probably the biggest source of the tax resolution clients that we've seen, people who wanted their stimulus money but couldn't get it. So we actually ended up working with a lot of people who had 5-6 years of unfiled returns. And what happens is it's pretty innocent when it starts. You start in 2014 and you go to file your returns and you realize you owe money. And it might not be a small amount. It might be $10,000, $15,000 you owe the IRS. And you look at that bill and you say, well, I don't have that. And you should file it anyway, and then we'll deal with the debt later, but people don't. They get scared, so they don't file the return. Well, and then the next year comes, and they say, well, I didn't file last year. I shouldn't file this year. So then they don't. And before you know it, it's 2020. There's a global pandemic, and there's a stimulus check that they need, but you can't get access to it unless you filed your returns for 2019 or 2018. Right. So we have to go back. We have to file everything from 2015 on or whatever it may be, so they can get access to that.
Well, it's good to have somebody like yourself on their side when they have to go and, kind of traverse that kind of a dynamic for sure.
Yeah, well, you don't want to do it alone because, the IRS will take advantage of you if they can.
Yeah, you can tell. I didn't know that. That's a valuable information. Yeah, absolutely. How about with the PPP loans that businesses are trying to get? Now they had round 2, so the different rules and everything else. So you have to have your taxes done as a business to qualify for this. But there's that certain formula, the 75-25 formula that you have to make sure that you do so that it's more of a grant instead of a loan. And so talk a little bit about the PPP loan, because that's very, very timely for right now.
Yeah, the PPP loan, that's another thing that we've been doing quite a bit of over the last 2 months. A lot of businesses in the area were lucky enough to get one. We're now seeing the EIDL loan, the economic injury disaster loan, coming through for a lot of different businesses. So we've been kind of working with them to make sure that they are following the requirements of the SBA, and particularly with the PPP, we're making sure they're following the forgiveness guidelines, which actually were just released, and the SBA has them online now. So if you do have a PPP loan, you can see what is required of it. But it requires meticulous bookkeeping. You have to make sure that you're spending money exactly where they are allowing you to spend that money, which is mostly paychecks, but it does account for rent, mortgages, utilities, things of that nature as well. But the bookkeeping is going to have to be meticulous. We've actually been advising people to open a separate bank account just to make sure that we can trace all of the funds that came from that loan so that there's no issue when it comes to forgiveness. The last thing you want is to get a pile of money thinking that you're not going to have to pay it back, and all of a sudden you have to pay the whole thing back.
Right. And I think the rule is 24 months at 1% interest. I think, correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct for the PPP. The EIDL loans, we're now seeing 3.75% interest. The payment terms are a bit more flexible. So they're actually a much lower monthly payment, and they're used for a different purpose. The PPP was intended to be primarily a grant, whereas the EIDL is meant to keep businesses alive with working capital. So they do serve two different purposes, but they're filling a similar hole.
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, you work in conjunction with people's CPAs. It's not a competition. Everybody is working together so that you are able to save the maximum amount of funds possible because, you know, your overhead is, again, the PPP really helps with that because your biggest overhead is your people and just keeping your businesses alive and afloat. So if you have a tax attorney and a CPA working together in conjunction with each other, that's just win-win. That equals, you know, huge win, I think, right? So.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times people, the initial reaction to when we talk about tax planning is, well, I already have a CPA. Well, I don't do exactly what a CPA does. So CPA is very good at sitting with you and going over your records and filing your tax return. What I do takes that one step further. I sit with you. We talk about goals. We talk about different things you would like to do with the business. It's not dissimilar to what you do, Rick, which I try to figure out, where are we going here and how do I get you there? But mine is more financial. Mine is, how do we write this off? How can I get this so that you can extract more tax-free dollars from your business so you're not losing that money to the IRS? CPAs can certainly take my plan and implement it, and many do. But we do very different things, just servicing the businesses in a very different manner.
Absolutely. And it's really about what looks best for the client themselves. So, you know, what we do is same circus, different intent. So you do the financial side.
Yep.
I do more of the other side, which is just as tangible, but with the marketing, setting them up, relationship management, leadership, and so on and so forth. We can go on for hours of, you know, what the ways that we're alike in what we do. But one of the things that I want to talk about that is going to be one of the realities of what's happening now is the bankruptcies, the Chapter 7, Chapter 11, and Chapter 13. If you could tell us a little bit more about what each of those, the dynamic of each of those is, and how businesses can actually benefit from it, and what the stigma is with bankruptcy. And it's not as bad as people think in a lot of ways.
Yes. So I'll actually start there. I'll start with the stigma because we deal with it all the time. People think that if you file bankruptcy, it's like a scarlet letter. It follows you around forever. It hurts your credit forever. It's not true. The reality is that most of my clients actually see a credit score increase after we file the bankruptcy. I think most of my clients actually will report a 50-point credit score increase by the mere fact that they filed the bankruptcy. You did not mishear that. They filed the bankruptcy, the score goes up 50 points. How's that possible?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, you're doing a few things. First off, you're taking everything negative off of your report. So the bankruptcy is going to take off any late payments. It's going to take off other derogatory remarks. It's going to resolve all lawsuits, repossessions, foreclosures that you may have on the report. So all those negative things are wiped off. Even though the bankruptcy itself will be reported, normally the stuff you're removing is going to do more benefit than the bankruptcy will do harm. So you actually end up in that positive. It also decreases your credit card utilization to zero because you have no credit cards anymore, no credit card debt. So a lot of these things are going to be favorable in the credit score calculation. So I get a lot of resistance. Well, I can't file bankruptcy because I need to buy a house or I need to buy a car. You can buy a car the day you file a bankruptcy. And it sounds ridiculous, but we literally have lenders that we work with where we file the bankruptcy, we send the client to the lender the same day. As long as we can prove that we filed the bankruptcy for them, the lender will give them a car loan. They work specifically with people in bankruptcy. They know they're in bankruptcy, so that's not even a question. And then you just have to go to the right lenders. I have people who get mortgages at 3.25% interest rate within 2 years of a bankruptcy. So it really doesn't carry the stigma that people think that it does. So I try to educate people and explain it's a financial tool like anything else. The bankruptcy is your constitutional right. It's in the Constitution that Congress shall enact bankruptcy laws, and they did. And we have the bankruptcy code. It's for your protection, and we use it.
That's great information. Yeah, absolutely. So the difference between 7, 11, and 13.
Yes. So in the business context, you really only have two options. You have a 7 or the 11.
Okay.
The 13 is not available for businesses generally,
Okay.
but a 7 you would use if you were shutting the business down, and 11 you could use to keep the business alive. So those are really the two starting points for me. If you came to me as a business, I'd ask if do you want to stay afloat or not? And if the answer is no, I just want to wrap everything up, we would use a Chapter 7. If you told me that you wanted to try to figure it out and reorganize and stay alive, we would use a Chapter 11. On the personal side, you can file a 7, 11, or a 13, but we almost never file an 11 for individuals because it's expensive for a person to do and there's cheaper options. So we would typically look at a 7 or a 13 for an individual. But a 7 is what people think of when they think of a bankruptcy. We're getting rid of your unsecured debt. We might have some other things that we could do. Maybe we can change your car loan, for example. There's different procedures we can do to try to resolve that for you in a Chapter 7. But your debt goes away. There's no payments. It's a 4-month process, and you're done. The Chapter 13 is a payment plan that we would use in certain situations to help you maybe repay your mortgage arrears, repay your rent if you were late on your rent, your car loan. If you were behind on your car loan, you didn't want it repossessed, we could use it for that. So it really gives you the flexibility to catch up on things. I think we're going to see a lot of that after this is over because people haven't been paying their mortgages. People haven't been paying their rents. So we're not evicting right now. They're not doing foreclosures right now, but they will as soon as they can.
Yeah.
And people are going to need to stop that. Like you're going to go to your landlord and you're going to say, look, I understand that I'm late. I'll catch up. I'm back to work now. And the landlord's going to say, yeah, well, I got to pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
So you're going to see landlords filing bankruptcy because they need to repay their mortgage. You're going to see tenants filing bankruptcy because we need to repay the landlords. So you're going to see a lot of that. We're going to need to just repay everything. And the 13 is going to give us the ability to do that in a very easy way.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was great information. If anybody wants to reach you and get some more information or maybe do a consult with you, how would they do that?
So my website is armlawyers.com. It's armlawyers.com. All of our information is there on everything that we do. You can give me a call anytime. Happy to do a free consultation. All the information's on the website.
And you are licensed in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Maryland.
That's correct.
That's awesome. Patrick Best, ARM Lawyers, Best Tax Solutions, author of these two amazing books, The Essential Bankruptcy Survival Guide and The Essential Tax Resolution Survival Guide. Pick up your copies. I'm sure Patrick will hook you up.
They are free. They're free on the website. Yes.
I'm going to do it again. These are free.
They're free on the website. Yep.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Rick. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, the contact information is going to be up at the end if you really want a consult, which I would say it's in your best interest to do so. This has been More Than Just Business. I'm Rick Franzo. I hope you all enjoy your day and stay gold.